Welcome everybody to the CSFL breakdown video for week 15, the last week of season 9. I got the Piranhas head coach with me, Jay Bomber, and we're going to be talking about these games and we're going to start with the Dragons versus the Werewolves. We'll take a look at the playoff picture after we talk about these games. The Dragons and the Werewolves. The Werewolves versus the Dragons all time. You can see on the right side of the screen here. They are 2-5 versus the Dragons all time, and they've never met in the playoffs. Both of these teams actually went to the semifinals games last season, and both of them lost. The Werewolves now this season are missing the playoffs. The Dragons also made it to the semifinals, like I said, but they lost to the Rhinos. And the Werewolves lost to the Piranhas. Or not the Piranhas, the Vipers, sorry. And these two teams are very defensive, you know, based teams, and the Werewolves are out of the playoffs and they're at home hosting the Dragons who are in the playoffs. Um, what's your thoughts on this game here, Jay Bauer?
For me, gotta get that run game going for the Dragons. I mean, this should be a really good game to win for the Dragons. If they can just get their run game going, then they'll be perfectly fine. But right now they are number like 13 in rushing offense, which is not good. But just get that run game going, and then y'all be all right. I mean,
Yeah, Travis Stovall actually right now, he's tied with Bryce Locker for most rushing touchdowns in the season. They both have 20. They need three to tie the record, and they need four touchdowns to break the record.
yep.
So that should be interesting. The
Yep,
Werewolves are. Oh,
but
go ahead.
also for the werewolves,
Yep.
if they can play spoiler, the Dragons may go down in the standings. They will probably be number 8.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, they could be the eighth or seventh with the 8 wins, right?
Yeah, they could be either 7 or 8. It depends on how the years play.
Yeah, the Werewolves are on a. Excuse me, my the Werewolves are on a 5-game losing streak. Yeah, 5-game losing streak, and the
Yep,
Dragons just won last week in a close one
yep.
versus the Wolverines. And the defense for the Dragons has been playing a lot better this season, and their offense has been doing really well in the passing game. They got 8 wins. They potentially could get their ninth here, and the Werewolves are already out of the playoffs. So let's take a look at the next matchup. The next matchup is the Cobras versus the Wolverines. Or should I say Wolverines are actually hosting. Wolverines are at home versus the Cobras. Actually, this will be
No,
their.
it's the Cobras at home. It's the Cobras at home.
Is that Cobras at home?
I mean, it should
No,
be the
that's.
Cobras at home.
Oh, I don't think so. No, the
Oh, yep,
Cobras are.
it's the Wolverines at home. Yep, you're right. Go ahead.
Yep, yep. The Wolverines are at home. This will be their third game that they've played against the Cobras in their franchise history, and all three of them will be in the Wolverines stadium. So this will be the third time the
Hmm.
Cobras travel to the Wolverines. The Wolverines are 0-2 against the Cobras, and they've never met in the playoffs because the Wolverines have not made the playoffs. The Wolverines were looking really good um, in the middle of the season, I'd say. And then now they have three straight losses, one to the Piranhas, Gorillas, and Dragons. and now here facing an 8-6 Cobras who already made the playoffs but lost last week. We'll take a look here. Lost last week against the Bears, but put
Yep.
50, but put 59 points up against the Dragons. So let's see how this game goes on. I'll see if the Wolverines can get the big win here to give them even a chance to get in the playoffs as they're on the outside looking in. What do you think about this game here, J Bomber?
This is a very tough decision to make between the Wolverines and Cobras. You don't know who's going to win this game. I mean, when you have the third rushing offense in the league, that means something. That means you should get Johnny Romolo involved no matter what. Just run them down their throats. I mean, just do what the Piranhas did. Make them score no points. I'm just kidding. Uh,
All right.
Hopefully it's a back and forth game, and I want this to be a back and forth game no matter what because I don't want to see the Cobras get 0 points again. And hopefully, if a Cobras win, then I guess they're up in the rankings. But if not, then they might go down. It depends between the Dragons and Gators. But I mean, Wolverine still has a chance to be in the playoffs. But I mean, you got to win this game and then hope and pray.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a great game for these two teams here. I think that the Cobras really have turned it around. They were playing, I'd say, mediocre in the middle of the season. They were not playing good at the end of the season. And now, here at the end of the season, they're actually playing really well. They got Bradley McNamara, who brought them to the playoffs last season, believe it or not, and played in the playoffs in the last season. But they lost in the first round. The Cobras starting Bradley McNamara, who is 18-4. With 130 quarterback rating, 1,800 yards, and did not start the majority of the season. So let's see how Bradley McNamara does on the road, as the Cobras notoriously do good on the road against the Wolverines. And let's see how the Wolverines respond, as they got Johnny Romolo, who is looking like he is going to win Rookie of the Year,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and he is second in the league for rushing yards with 1,770 yards and 16 touchdowns. The only person above him is the Rhinos running back, Bryce Locker. So let's see if the Wolverines can stay alive and get the big win that they need.
Yep. I do have one more thing to say.
Go ahead.
Uh, Switch out the QBs, Cobras. Just switch them out, man. To get John Jordan in there, man. That man can play way much better for you.
You like John Jordan over Bradley McNamara?
I mean, he has done so much for him. I mean, he played much better than McNamara.
Right. All right. Let's go to the next game, which is the game of the week. Um, where is it? There you go. Boom. The Gators versus the Vipers. One of my favorite matches of all time. These two are two original teams, and they've been going at it since season one, and they've met in the playoffs as well. And the Gators lost to the Vipers in the playoffs, and they've lost every single time that they have played each other. The Gators are at home. This will be their fourth game at home in a row that they will host the Vipers. Gators are 0-8 all time in the regular season versus the Vipers. The season is on the line for the Gators as they are the only team here in week 15 that have 7 wins, and 8 wins gets you in. It's all in the hands of Thomas Brown, Rico Bennett, and the coaching staff of the Gators. Their whole season comes down to this last game in the last week, and it happens to be against the big bad Vipers. The Vipers, on the other hand, are on a 4-game winning streak, and they were playing, I would say, average, and they didn't look like they had the spark that they needed offensively. But in these last 4 weeks, man, have they really turned things around? And they've been explosive on offense. They showed that they can outscore the Rhinos. They showed that they can play the tough defensive games and get the big turnovers. They've really shown that they can do it all. They've been to 4 championships in 8 seasons. Can they get to another one or at least get into the playoffs like they are? Obviously, they're into the playoffs. But this week doesn't matter as much to the Vipers as it does to the Gators. But the Vipers always play the Gators hard. Always. The last 3 games against the Vipers, they didn't let, they have not allowed over 30 points. All of them have been under 30 points. What's your thoughts on this game here, Jay Bomber, when you take a look at this matchup with the season on the line for the Gators? Do you think they can win this game here and punch their ticket?
This is actually a close one. I can't even tell who's gonna win. But looking at the history, the Vipers might win it and just make it 0-9. I mean, look at all this history, man. Close game almost every game. And this is the fourth home game for the Gators, which is probably not good. It might be, it can be good, but losing your home game against one of your opposing foes at a time like this to try to make it to the playoffs is not good and not good at all. Right now, they are on the verge of even being eliminated out of the playoffs. When was the last time the Gators were eliminated out of the playoffs?
Oh, they've missed the playoffs before. They've never had a number one pick though, but they've
Eh,
definitely missed the playoffs for sure.
so, well, I mean, just try to win this game. It's gonna be tough no matter what, cause trying to run the ball against this defense, who is number one at rushing defense and number two at total defense, it's not gonna be good. So you might as well let Thomas Brown throw the ball, which is he's probably not that good at that one either. Just try. I mean,
Yeah,
the
that's def.
offense. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna say that's definitely the
Uh,
matchup. That's definitely the matchup is the running game for the Gators versus the number one rushing defense for the Vipers. That's the strength versus strength there for these two franchises for sure when the Gators are out on offense. I don't
and then you
see.
got the weakness and weakness.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't. But that's the thing is that's a little bit more sure in my opinion, where I don't see Corey Moore and Gary Mason and Johnny Jones and the new young Jesse Lincoln, 1 year pro, 6'5". He's got 10 touchdowns and 700 yards, and he's I don't see them slowing this offense down. They're just on a hot streak right now, and they've been doing really, really well. He's really got his offense going, and the Gators have been struggling defensively, but they keep up offensively. The Gators might not be now; they're seventh there, but they were, I believe, in the top three, top four for points per game for the majority of this season. They had no problem scoring points. That's for sure. It's just a matter of can they get the drive at the end to close it out? They need a closer. And can Rico Bennett do that against the Vipers of all teams with the season on the line? Like this is as dramatic as it gets right here. Um, for for the Gators. Yeah, Rico Bennett, 1,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 7.9 yards a carry. He's been playing really well, averaging over 123 points a game, or 123 yards a game. Yeah.
And
Ugh.
as for Thomas Brown, it's not doing good. But I mean, the completion percentage is actually kind of good, 63%. But trying to rely on his arm a lot is probably not a good idea.
He's averaging 200 yards a game, 11 yards a completion, 63%. Only 4 interceptions, which is really, really low. 33 touchdowns is definitely average, if not above average, just above average. And 2,800 yards and a really high quarterback rating at 135. His numbers are so deceiving. His numbers are so deceiving. It's hard to judge Thomas Brown because he looks great on paper and he doesn't turn the ball over. So it's
Yes.
you can't really blame him a lot of the times, right? But he's not going above and beyond, but he's throwing 33 touchdowns, which is where on the list? Like that's he's up there. He's tied at fourth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like he's not throwing touchdowns, clearly. And he's got 7 wins. They're 7-7. I don't know. I think like this is it. This is the season on the line. Like the Gators got to bring it. Thomas Brown's got to have a great game. They got to be able to run it with Rico Nasty and Brady Clark, the linebacker for the Gators. He has to have a huge game today, or on Friday, should I say, for the game of the week. This game will be 8:30 p.m. Eastern this Friday coming up. Game of the week, guys. Make sure you take the time to watch this one here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one is the Demons versus the Wildcats, which is the late game, which is the last game of Friday of the regular season. This is more of a lopsided history than most people may think it is, and the most lopsided in Wildcats of any other opponent. They struggle the most against the Demons here, clearly. They are the Demons are 5-1, and have only lost once to the Wildcats ever. They've never met in the playoffs, as the Demons have only been to the playoffs twice. But most of these games have been at home. Actually, this will be the six home games out of 7 matches all time versus the Wildcats. So the Wildcats are used to traveling to the Demon Stadium, and the Demons are going to close out their remarkable season 11-3 versus the 10-4 Wildcats. Both of these teams have made the playoffs, so this game isn't extremely relevant, but 5 game winning streak for the Wildcats, 4 game winning streak for the Demons. Both of these teams have been winning and winning big and are both on great winning streaks. And both of them want to win, obviously. No one wants to lose, but you don't want to lose and kind of lose your momentum going into the playoffs, right? It would be good to win big on your last game going into the playoffs. I'd say their defenses are pretty even. One's a lot better at stopping the run. One's a lot better at stopping the pass. But their turnover differential is almost exactly the same, second and third. Both of these teams turn the ball over really well, and they don't turn the ball over on offense. The fourth ranked offense, which is their strength, and the fourth ranked rushing offense, which is their strength, versus the fourth ranked passing offense in the Wildcats. Both of these teams have a lot of similarities. Even the points per game, it's only zero point 0.4 of a difference. Two Titans meeting each other here on the last game of the season. Doesn't have as much relevance, but what's your thoughts on this game here and the Demons and Wildcat season in general?
Incredible season for both teams. Right now, this is the matchup between ranked number one and ranked number two. This is like the CSFL championship right now. Like who will win to win it all? But since it's not, who will win to get that number one seed for the
Ooh,
playoffs?
ooh,
That's what it's for. Whoever wins is just the number one seed in the playoffs.
right.
Um, it, I don't even know who's going to win this game. This is going to be a close one. This is going to be a real fun one, and I hope it doesn't come down to like some shenanigans and stuff like that.
Yeah, you want it to be a clean game. We all want it to be a clean game, obviously, but shenanigans are a part of the fun. I'm just kidding. Uh, yeah, both these teams,
I mean, it can be.
yeah, both these teams are on great winning streaks. Um, both of them play great on offense. Both of them turn the ball over really well. I don't know. I think this could be one of those games where this is you're gonna see this rematch in the playoffs, right?
Yep,
Like
it
this is
might happen.
yeah, this might be a game where, if one's 1 and 2, then they're gonna be on the same bracket side, just because of how the brackets work. It's not
Well,
in
well,
this in the
well. You
sec.
know what? You
Yeah.
know what? I do have to say this. If the demons lose, they'll be in the number four. That means they'll have to win that 4-5 game to play against the Wildcats again.
Right. 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 Exactly. If the Wildcats win again or win in the first round as well, right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they could totally see each other again. So this will be a film study game. Let's put it that way. And yeah, when you mentioned that, I totally didn't even think of that. Good point, man. Like this is for the number one. Like this is a big deal. This is actually a very big deal if that's the case, because you want to play that eighth team.
yep.
That's a big one. All right, let's go take a look at our first matchup of Saturday at 5:30.
A- Actually, you know what? I have to say this one more time.
What's that?
If the demons wins,
Oh,
and it all comes down, if they want to do another rematch, it all comes down to that CSFL championship. If they can make it there.
of course. Okay. Tigers versus the Gorillas. Saturday at 5:30 p.m. The Tigers versus the Gorillas all time. The Tigers lost in week 10 last season, 26 to 21, and they were at home, so this would be two home games in a row for the Tigers when they face the Gorillas. Neither of these teams have made the playoffs. The Tigers have had an extremely disappointing season. They look to be getting the number one draft pick in season 10. They're on a four-game losing streak. They're 2-12, and they've had promises on offense. They got a lot of really good weapons on offense. It's just their defense, 14th out of 16 teams, and they're 14th for turnover differential at -6. They've really struggled defensively for sure, but their offense has shown a lot of life. And quarterback Clay Sharp has been playing well. Nick Moon, their running back, has been playing really well. Their first round draft pick in their wide receiver. He hasn't been playing as great as you would want him to, but has been playing average for sure, especially at they're losing so much. It's been a hard to watch the Tigers. It's you want so much for them, and you want them to win, and you want them to do well, and they've just been struggling. In season 9 is definitely an understatement. The Gorillas, on the other hand, they're so back and forth. The Gorillas have had amazing improvement defensively, and I think that they're really building this team the right way. It's just they're building it slower than, say the Monsters or so, even though they have the same record. The Gorillas, they're a hard team to predict because they play really good against really good teams, but then play really bad against bad teams. We'll take a look at their. Yeah, so they lost to the Cobras and Dragons, but they beat the Bears, Wolverines, and Werewolves. They held the Werewolves last week to 7 points. Um, it's just their offense has really been struggling. Ismail Pitts has not been able to get it going this season. I believe he only has 22 touchdowns. And also their running game has really been struggling. And their offensive points, they're last in the league, averaging only 25 points per game. They're on a 2 game winning streak, and they definitely have potential here to beat the Tigers on the road and get themselves to 7-8, which is a great season for them. That'll be the most wins they've ever had in franchise history for the Gorillas, 7 wins, which is a huge improvement for them, and they're going in the right direction if they can fix things offensively. But if they get the win here, again, they're still on the outside looking in. They just are. Everyone needs to be a Vipers fan this week, I guess. The Bears, Gorillas, Monsters, and Wolverines all need to be Viper fans and hope that the Vipers can take down the Gorillas or take down the Gators. Sorry. So the Gorillas and them can all have a chance to get in. What's your thoughts, Jay Bomber, on these two franchises in this game here?
The Gorillas has a chance to make it to the playoffs for the first time. It's the same thing with the Wolverines. Um, this game right here, I mean, the Tigers on offense has just had a promising. Their offense was just promising. Like they could have at least done something in order to like win more games in order to be where the monsters are at right now, or where the gorillas are at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for the gorillas, I mean, I mean, this is a game to where nobody really wants to watch. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. This is a game that should have the Gators. I mean, the Gorillas to win. Just use Cedric Burley a lot. Darius Taylor. Everybody needs to play well, and all you got to do is just hope and pray that the Vipers will win, and hope and pray that you can get in because I don't know who's gonna get in if everybody wants to be 7-8. You really can't tell who's gonna get in if you're 7-8. So just hope and pray that you can get in if you win.
Yeah. Yeah, for the positive, I would say for this game is for the Gorillas. If they get the win here, and yes, get in the playoffs, that'll be the first time they ever made the playoffs, and they'll be on a 3 game winning streak going into the playoffs with a great defense. So there's lots of positives there for sure for the Gorillas here. And the Tigers definitely don't want to win this game because they want the number one overall pick because they've definitely missed the
Well,
boat.
if they win, they don't even matter.
Right. All right. Let's move on to. We got two more games to talk about, and these are the two Saturday games. And this one is the 7 o'clock game, or no, we got three more games. Sorry, we got the 7 o'clock
Yep.
game, and it's the Blue Jays versus the Bears, and the Blue Jays are playing spoiler once again, even though they're on a 6 game losing streak. They've been playing amazing offensively and amazing. Look at the points per game, third in the league, tied for third, and second best ranked total offense. Yeah, they have the 16th ranked rushing offense, but the number one has been carrying them all the way the passing offense, the rookie Mike Archer. Blue Jays versus the Bears all time are 4-3. These two teams play each other pretty good. They never met in the playoffs. Blue Jays have never won a game in the playoffs, where the Bears have a couple wins. I believe they have 2 wins in the playoffs. The Bears, they needed to get the big win against the Demons, but were unable to get it. But then they got the big win last week against the Cobras. Um, so that is huge for the Bears to keep their season 9 hopes alive here. Um, I think that the Bears have a really strong chance to win this game, even though they're on the road, as the Blue Jays have just been struggling so much defensively. They're the worst defense, ranked 16th in the league. But they turn the ball over. They actually have a surprisingly high amount of interceptions. They just don't have a great system there. They need to figure out something because they definitely have the talent. They definitely have the personnel. They just don't have the right scheme, really. Um, the Blue Jays could win this game because they also have a really strong passing game, the number one ranked passing offense, but the Bears also have the number one ranked passing defense. I love when we see number one versus number one. What's your thoughts on this game here in these two teams' season here in season 9?
Number one versus number one. That is perfect thing to see. But if only the Blue Jays can get their run game going,
Yeah.
which is probably not going to happen because Pierre Palmer is like one of the best running backs in the league, but yet you're not using him for the run game. But I mean, granted, granted for Mike Archer, yet number one in everything in passing offense, and yards, touchdowns, and all that stuff. Great job for a rookie. I mean, if you have a rookie, I mean you are good enough to see all these yards and stats and stuff. But not letting your veteran running back run the ball a lot is not good. But it's all good for the Bears because once they win, there's a possible chance they can be in it.
Hmm.
Like I said, I don't know if who's going to be in it if everybody is 7-8.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
Excuse me.
I'll tell you what. If the Gators and Bears were 7-8, then the Bears will be in the playoffs. And if everybody else, whoever is 6-8, if everybody else loses their game and becomes 6-9, that's a way to get in for the Bears.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The Bears have to win. They have to win, and it's still not for sure. But yeah, if they win, they definitely have a better chance to get in and try to sneak in. They started 0-4, as they've said many times, and then they started Jimmy Caps, and he came in and went on a win streak there, I believe winning 3 out of 4 games, and got them back into the playoff race. 6-8. They won last week, big against the Cobras, who were an 8-5 team now, 8-6. The Bears can keep up with the big teams. They beat the Dragons, Gators. They can beat these really good teams and compete as they do really well defensively. And I think that if they get into the playoffs with a strong running game and a really good defense that they got, I think they could definitely get past the first round and spoil one of these big teams' dreams. Um, the Blue Jays, they have the offense, man, to spoil here, and they're at home, and no one's really been able to stop Mike Archer. And now the number one passing defense he hasn't seen all season. I don't know if he has or not, but he's going against it this week, and this will be a really cool thing to watch to see how Mike Archer does against this really good Bears total defense, fourth ranked as well, as they get a lot of pressure. Um, but yeah, I'm excited about this game because this is big playoff implications in this game here. Let's go take a look at the next one. And for the game of Saturday, I guess. The 8:30 game, Rhinos versus the Piranhas. And this is a really good game. Both these teams have made the playoffs. Both these teams are favored to make a good playoff run. Definitely the Rhinos, obviously, as they are the best at everything. Number one points per game, number one for turnover differential, number one total offense, number two rushing defense. They are a full package. They are a machine of a team. But they did lose recently to the Vipers, and we were all shocked about that. And they also lost to the Wildcats actually too. They beat the Scorpions last week, getting back into form, and now they're going against the Piranhas here. The Piranhas versus the Rhinos all time. The Rhinos are 3-4-1. They had a tie back in season two, as both these teams are two original teams. They have met, or they haven't met in the playoffs, which I'm really shocked about because it's always the Vipers and the Piranhas that line up in the playoffs, and it's always the Rhinos and Cobras that always line up in the playoffs for some reason. The Rhinos still have not played the Piranhas in the playoffs. This might be in one of those games again. That might be a rematch. We might see this matchup again in the playoffs, which would be a really cool thing to see. Maybe even back to back. You never know. The number one ranked rushing offense for the Piranhas. The number one ranked total defense for the Piranhas. They look great on defense. That's for sure. The Piranhas have been playing amazing defensive ball, which we've never ever seen. I know I've said this before a few times, but we've never seen the Piranhas ever have a top three defense. I'd say top two, top three defense, never. So to see them with the number one and then plus with the number one rushing offense, it's really cool to see. They're on a 4-game winning streak. Let's take a look here too as well for the Piranhas. They beat the Cobras, or they lost to the Dragons, 24-20, and then they beat the Cobras, and they have not stopped momentum since. 24-0, they shut out the Cobras in the Piranhas' first ever shutout with this number one ranked defense in their franchise history. And then they beat the Wolverines in a close game, played really well against the Werewolves, and beat the Tigers with their backups last week. The Piranhas look really strong. Can they beat the Rhinos and actually end the season with the same record as the Rhinos? That would be extremely impressive if the Piranhas can get this win here. But this is no joke of a team. This is the Rhinos we're talking about here, and they're at home. And I don't know. This is a tough game and a really exciting game. This could easily have been game of the week if it wasn't for the Vipers and Gators season on the line there and everything, and the Demons and the Wildcats. But what's your thoughts on this? I know you got lots to say about this game.
My goodness, you're making me nervous over here because you was talking so much about this game. I am 1-0 against the Rhinos. I'm 1-0. Now I have a chance to be 2-0, but then the Rhinos has a chance to get the revenge back. Now, if I win, we get to play against each other again. But if I lose, we might play against each other again still. But with me losing, there are some other teams that are right behind me, which is the Dragons and the Cobras. Since I've already beaten the Cobras, if the Dragons win, they will be in front of me and play against the Rhinos. So this is definitely going to be a tough game for me to try it and watch. Hopefully, we can just have a group party around that game. I mean,
Be awesome.
you can just watch it and oh my goodness, I don't. Oh my goodness, this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. I mean, last season was a tough game. This season it's going to be even tougher. So hopefully, I get this win and become number four, the fourth seed, and hopefully I get to play against these Rhinos again.
Wow, that'd be something, man. Imagine you beat them back to back. That'd be some crazy bragging rights and extremely
Yes.
hard to do. Yeah, yeah. So this will be the ninth game that these two franchises have met. Um, as both of them has been in it since season one. Both of them have had championships. Actually, out of the last 3 years, these are the two teams to win championships. The Rhinos have won the last two, and the Piranhas won one in season six. All right, let's take a look at the next matchup. And of the final matchup of season nine, should I say. We're gonna wrap up the season with the Monsters versus the Scorpions. The Monsters versus Scorpions all time, they actually lost to the Scorpions last year when they were at home, and now they're back at home hosting the Scorpions. So they're 0-1 versus the Scorpions. It was 34-31. It was a really close game, and now they're back at home trying to see if they can get the revenge there and go 1-1 versus Scorpions all time. Also, they need this win here. The Monsters they were playing really well. They were 6-6 and they were playing really well.
Yes.
And then they happened to meet up with the Wildcats and the Vipers back to back
Very
weeks.
tough schedule right there.
Right in the end of the year, right at the end of the season. That's so brutal. And they lost both of those games. Last week they played so good. I can't talk about how good the Monsters played. Take a look at it here. The Monsters played so good last week. They almost beat the Vipers. It was 17-3, I believe, at one point, and then they only scored 3 points in the second half, and the Vipers came back and won 27-20. A very disappointing loss, as they had looked like they had it in their grasp. Um, Rodney Green for the Monsters, I believe, has still not thrown an interception. Actually, let's go take a quick look at that. 'Cause he didn't throw one last week. Yeah, he's 17-0. Rodney Green,
Hmm.
134 quarterback rating, which is higher than Thomas Brown. 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, and no picks. Yeah, he's been going back and forth between Serge Robertson and Rodney Green, but man, Rodney Green has been so efficient with a lot less starts, I believe, because Serge Robertson has been getting the big starts in the big games. But yeah, the Monsters, they have their season on the line here, going against the struggling Scorpions. Let's talk about the Scorpions for a second. Man, the Scorpions and the Werewolves have got to be the two biggest teams to fall off the mountain, as the Werewolves and the Scorpions easily could be a top five, top six team that we had them all ranked at the beginning of season 9. The Scorpions fell off the mountain the biggest, as they have now double digit losses with 10 losses and only 4 wins. They have the 16th ranked total offense, and they have Jeannie Ingram, the legend. Jeannie Ingram, they got Jackie Wilson, they got Rookie of the Year, Jason Lewis Sherman, Rookie of the Year. They got Jason Tupea, they got Joey Porter. Like they got all these crazy offensive weapons, 95 overall offense. But their defense has just let them down game after game after game. Let's take a look at the Scorpions here. They beat the Tigers and the Werewolves, but they lost big to the Cobras. The Cobras scored 58 points on them. And then they lost a lot of really close games in the middle of the season. They actually beat the Wildcats though. They beat the Wildcats, the Scorpions, 24-21, and they beat the Blue Jays. Yeah, the Monsters need to get this win, as even though they're on a 2-game losing streak, they need to get this win to get 7 wins so they can have a chance to make it into the playoffs, and they got to pray that the Gators lose. And the Scorpions have a chance to play spoiler, really, here. What's your thoughts on these two franchises in season 9?
The Scorpions could have done better this season, but since all they did was just do the same playbook every game, it could have been different. I mean, the defense now, it could have at least switched that, but since the offense was not clicking, this is how this season goes. And right now, if they lose this game, it all depends on how they lose to the Blue Jays, or if they beat the Blue Jays. Okay, so they beat the Blue Jays, so that means the Blue Jays will probably get their second pick if they lose still. As for the Monsters, um, they have beaten the Gators, lost to the Bears, and also lost to the Wolverines.
Right.
Now, I'm glad I get to say all this stuff right now. If the Monsters win and the Wolverines and Bears lost, since the Monsters beat the Gorillas as well in the 62-38 game, oh my goodness. Um, since if the Monsters win and the Gators lose, Gorillas, Wolverines, and Bears, if they all lose, Monsters has a chance to be in it. But since now it doesn't look like any of these teams might lose, except for the Wolverines. I think. I mean, the Wolverines has a tough one. I guess. I mean, coming up
Yeah.
against the Cobras, that's tough to do. So the best chance out of every team is the Monsters. The Monsters, Gorillas, and Bears. Gators and Wolverines don't have a good chance of making it
Yeah.
if they lose. Um, but start Rodney Green. I gave him to y'all. Y'all are right now second passing offense. This man has not thrown an interception yet. Start Rodney Green, and
Hmm.
then he will win this game for you. Okay, he will win this game for you, and all you got to do is just hope and pray that the Bears and Wolverines and the Gators
And
lose.
everybody lose. You gotta hope everybody loses. That's hilarious. No, it's so true though. Yeah. No, monsters.
Yes,
You gotta start Rodney Green, and you gotta hope that 3 out of 4 teams lose.
yes, 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
As if the
So
Gorillas win, then it don't even matter. Since the Monsters beat the Gorillas.
right. Bears are facing the Blue Jays. Gorillas are facing the Tigers. Monsters are
Gorillas
play.
are facing against the Tigers, Monsters, and
Monsters are
Scorpions.
playing the Scorpions. Yeah. And then it's the Wolverines and Gators that are playing the more difficult teams. Wolverines are playing the
Yes.
Cobras, and the Gators are playing the Vipers, of course. So yeah, wow. So who do you think? We'll do a quick prediction before we end the video. This is a 50-minute long video. So if you guys been watching this long, thank you for watching, and yeah, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the games. We broadcast them every Friday and Saturday. We got the playoffs coming up. But
Oh
let's
yeah.
let's make our predictions here for who do you think's gonna win and who do you think's gonna get in?
All right. So this is definitely a tough one to decide. So with Bears, I see them winning against the Blue Jays, which is not going to be a good thing for the Monsters. I see the Monsters winning as well, and I also see the Gorillas winning as well. But with all of that, um, the Gorillas, no, my bad, the Bears have beaten the Monsters, but lost to the Gorillas. Gorillas has beaten the Bears, but lost to the Monsters.
Right.
So if you have that three-way tie, and for the Gators to lose against the Vipers, which I know is going to happen, I know that you have a three-way tie, but the Bears will actually win that since they beat the Gators. I mean, the reason why I said it because the Bears beat the Monsters, and the Gorillas have never beaten the Gators. And so when that happens, the Bears will get in.
Hmm.
Now for the Wolverines has a tough matchup right there. They've already lost to the Gorillas. I mean, not the Gorillas, the Gators. So even with this win, there's a possible chance that you might be out still. You've beaten the Gators, and then you've lost to the Gators. You've beaten the Bears, and then you lose to the Gorillas and beat the Monsters. That's just it's just not looking good for y'all. If only y'all had a chance to beat one of these teams. I mean, y'all could have beaten the Gorillas, man. Dang it. I wanted y'all to beat the Gorillas, but my goodness, now the Gorillas are in a position to where they can get in the playoffs, which I never thought it would happen. But now with all of these teams able to try to get in the playoffs, I don't know what will happen, but hopefully you'll see a bunch of 7 and 8 teams, and with all that 7 and 8 teams, all bumbled up, Bears has a chance to be in it.
Wow. All right. Any last points you want to make before we close out the video?
I'm just looking for a really good game between the Demons and the Wildcats. That's David and Goliath right there. Some people might say that. I don't think it will. Well, I don't think it should be. I mean, it's number one versus number two. So yeah, I'm just hoping for a good game right there, and whoever wins gets that number one seed.
Yeah, don't forget about that, guys. If you're watching this, that the Demons and the Wildcats are facing each other, and the Wildcats get the win. They could steal the first seed away from the Demons right on the last week. And that's going to be a great matchup there. And also, stay tuned this Friday, guys, for all the games as the Gators host the Vipers for Game of the Week, as the Gators have to win to get in, and then that'll end and close the door for the top 8 seeds for Season 9 playoffs, which is coming up the following week, guys. Playoffs, and stay tuned for that, guys. And thank you, Jay Bomber, for doing this video with me and for making the time.
Yep. And one more thing, just one more thing that I have to say. I'm sorry, Rhinos, but since was losing games, y'all not gonna get that number one spot. All
Mm.
because y'all was losing those games. And for the Vipers, y'all not gonna be able to get that number one spot either. But yeah, the Vipers still has a chance to get that number two spot. It all depends on the Demons and Wildcats game. So they can get that number two spot if they win.
Yeah, a good point. Good point. Good point. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for watching.